Greetings, people of the internet. My name is Matt, and this is Doctor Who Online. In April 1980, Doctor Who magazine started to produce its own series of original short stories. These stories have been, for the most part, largely forgotten, and it's something that I've been wanting to revive for a very long time. What follows is an unabridged audio recording of the first Doctor Who magazine short story, The Two-Timers, by Jenny O'Connor, from Doctor Who magazine number 26 on the 3rd of April 1980. Set after the events of the Invasion of Time, the Doctor and K9 Mark II are now travelling in the TARDIS. But for their first adventure, it's a day where nothing is as it seems, and for the Doctor, it's a day that couldn't have got worse even if it tried. The Doctor leapt to his feet as an alarm klaxon howled through the TARDIS control room, pelted towards the main console and skidded to a halt before a bank of lights which blazed like berserk neon. K9 came rattling in, computer voice blaring.
Alarm! Full alert! Alarm! Invaders in the TARDIS! Stand by to repel invaders!
Good heavens, K9, said the Doctor. The chap can't even take 40 winks in peace these days. He checked the stasis lock. The TARDIS was still hovering, suspended in time. He clicked off the alarm systems, flicked on the scanner. The planet Koblos was in full view exactly where it had been only 15 minutes before. Report, K9. What was it this time?
Sensors indicate alien presence in the TARDIS, Master.
Description?
Fleeting, nebulous, insubstantial. No actual corporeal existence.
Sounds like a ghost, K9.
Affirmative, Master.
How very odd. The Doctor sat down on a couch by the wall. Something caught his eye across the room. He stared disbelievingly, then shot to his feet in horror. The figure of a man had emerged through the solid wall and now flitted towards him with an equally shocked expression. The Doctor threw his arms up for protection. The figure passed right through him and disappeared through the opposite wall. Trembling, the Doctor stared after it. Did you see that, K9? He stammered.
Affirmative, Master. Sensors indicate another presence about to materialize.
This time, a young woman came flying through the wall, her mouth open in a silent scream. She looked blurred, indistinct. She too faded like a morning mist. Report, K9. What's happening?
Figures inhabit different temporal field, Master,
stated K9, and rolled backwards to allow a large black shiny cube to hurtle past him and vanish through the wall. In the next 3 minutes, a huge blue pyramid, 2 red spheres, an elderly lady, and a gaggle of young girls moved silently and mysteriously through the TARDIS control room. Now this has got to stop, demanded the Doctor, as a 7-foot robot materialised suddenly before him. Swinging a fist, the Doctor aimed an experimental blow at the shimmering figure. The Doctor clutched his bruised knuckles and gasped in agony. Oh!
Sensors indicate figure has considerable mass and density, Master,
brayed K9. Oh, thank you, K9, said the Doctor through gritted teeth.
Resistance is futile,
intoned the robot.
You are hereby arrested under paragraph 4 Timeway Regulations, subsection 957B, parking in an illegal time zone.
An illegal time zone? Howled the Doctor. There's no such thing.
Tell it to the judge,
said the robot flatly, and before K9 could move, both Doctor and Robot had vanished without a trace. The Doctor looked around the poky little waiting room where he'd been waiting for 2 hours. The robot had left him there alone while apparently reporting to some superior. Suddenly the door opened and a short man in a long raincoat walked in. Beneath his military-style peaked hat, he carried a thin face. Beneath his thin nose was a toothbrush moustache. The Doctor suppressed a smile. With his scrawny neck, the man looked like a tortoise in an overgrown shell. The man sat down behind a bare table, took out a clipboard calculator, and began punching the keys.
So, this is Coblos,
said the Doctor affably.
Do you have a jelly baby? The orange ones are rather good.
The man curled his lip.
Silence,
he said.
You are facing serious charges, time traveller. Charges?
Asked the Doctor.
Parking in an illegal time zone, endangering pedestrians and vehicles alike, failing to produce a current license or tax sticker, and operating an untimeworthy vehicle in the main time stream, during rush hour, no less. I'm terribly sorry,
said the Doctor.
I can't explain everything. Save it for the judge,
said the man, and picking up his clipboard, he shuffled from the room.
You could get 300 years for this,
he sneered and slammed the door behind him. The suns of Coblos were setting as the Doctor found himself in the dock of a crowded courtroom. Robots guarded the doors. Glowering across the court at him was the dreaded judge.
Young man,
said his worship,
you are charged with violating our most serious time law, namely, no two objects may occupy the same space at the same time. Had your craft moved but a single microphase, a disastrous accident would have occurred. What have you to say?
Your Honour, said the Doctor politely, the TARDIS is equipped with various safety devices. Collision could not have occurred.
The judge shuffled some papers and nodded at the thin man in the large raincoat.
According to Time Warden Tompkins's report, your TARDIS is untimeworthy,
he said,
possessing a faulty temporal selector and a worn gyro thrust. The thing is a wreck! A jalopy!
The Doctor was almost speechless.
That TARDIS is a vintage model,
he gasped.
It's unique. Any collector in the galaxy would give his right arm for it.
He broke off suddenly as he noticed a sly grin crawling across the thin face of Time Warden Tompkins.
The fact remains,
said the judge,
that you broke the law. I hereby sentence you to 250 years imprisonment, and your TARDIS is to be scrapped forthwith.
No,
cried the Doctor.
You can't do this to me!
But Time Warden Tompkins had already summoned 2 robot guards, which moved in quickly, held the Doctor by the arms, and dragged him away to the cells beneath the courtroom. Later, in his tiny cell, the Doctor contemplated his fate. There was only one thing to do. He took a fob watch from his waistcoat pocket and pressed the winder. The dial cleared, and a picture of K9 appeared.
K9, are you receiving me?
Whispered the Doctor.
Soft but clear, Master,
replied K9. The Doctor smiled, glad that the novelty communicators he'd picked up in the intergalactic gift shop on Rigel 2 were finally proving useful.
K9, there's something I want you to do,
he said. Alan Skarg watched the TARDIS being cranked up from the scrapyard, safe in the grip of an anti-grav hoist.
The hoist swung across the yard and dropped the time machine onto a loader.
Careful with it!
Skarg shouted to the hoist operator.
That's an original TARDIS from Gallifrey. It cost me a fortune!
Money well spent, said a voice behind him. He turned to face the sneering features of Time Warden Tompkins. Another little treasure for your collection, Mr. Skarg? They both whipped round in alarm, just in time to see the TARDIS fade from the back of the loader and vanish into thin air. The Doctor backed up against his cell wall. The TARDIS had materialised exactly on the coordinates he'd given K9.
Ah, excellent!
He proclaimed, even though most of his cell was now occupied by the looming police box. He sidled round to the door and squeezed in, there to be greeted enthusiastically by K9.
A few minor adjustments, K9,
said the Doctor, striding over to the control console. K9's gyroscopic stabilisers whirred quietly as the TARDIS dematerialised. In the courtroom, the judge stared dumbfounded as the Doctor stepped from the battered police box.
But you've only just been taken away!
He spluttered.
How did you get here?
The TARDIS is a remarkable machine, replied the Doctor. It can create a time loop almost to the point of paradox. It can manoeuvre with exquisite control. It may be old, but it's not ready for the scrap heap yet. Unless, of course, some unscrupulous weasel were to concoct charges against me, then sell the TARDIS on the black market. A weasel such as you, perhaps. The Doctor threw an accusing finger at Time Warden Tompkins, who'd been edging towards the courtroom door. Tompkins ripped open his raincoat and pulled out a heavy polarizer ray.
Keep back!
He snarled as two robots moved towards him. He aimed the ray and fired. A robot crumpled under the blast, circuits fusing in a crackling hiss. The Doctor glimpsed at a gleam of metal beneath the raincoat. A pedestrian pack! Sure enough, Tompkins began punching buttons set into the pack on his chest. His body began to vibrate, then to fade. A look of terror spread across his face. His body focused again, took shape. Suddenly, the pack on his chest exploded. Tompkins fell to the floor. The polarizer clattered from his hand. Police and guards picked him up and, at the judge's instructions, hauled him stunned from the room.
Well, Doctor, it seems we must dismiss the case against you. You have proved your point admirably.
Ah, thank you, Judge. You see, Tompkins was a mere Time Warden, whereas I am a Time Lord. He was so confused by my appearance just now, he couldn't decide whether to escape into the past or the future. The future showed him his own capture. He threw the pedestrian pack into reverse, and it blew up in his face.
Ingenious,
muttered the judge.
Absolutely ingenious.
He looked up to offer congratulations to the Doctor, but the TARDIS was already beginning to fade from view.
Inside the TARDIS, the Doctor and K9 were already anticipating their next adventure.